So here's one kind of pedagogy that you can use when approaching a subject and wanting to share that subject and teach it to others. And this pedagogic approach, I don't even know if that's a word, but pedagogy define is the method and practice of teaching, especially as an academic subject or theoretical concept. So this approach, this pedagogic, however you use that word. Is that a word? Sorry, tangent. Pedagogic, define. And pedagogic. I just pull these words out of my head sometimes. I'm like, is that even a word? So this approach is to ask questions and solve a problem. So we're going to talk about the box model in this video. And I've already talked about the box model a little bit in the last video, that everything on a web page is a box. It's a square box. And in this video, we're going to approach that by working on a problem together. And I think this will be the best way to learn it. But before we do that, I want to go visit Shay Howe's website, Shay Howe Learn HTML. And we're taking the Todd McLeod curriculum pathway, but we've also used MDN, Mozilla Developers Network, the Learn HTML stuff there. And then we're also using Shay Howe's book, because Shay Howe's written a phenomenal book. And so and it's on the web, it's on our website, so we're just referencing it here. But he has an entire section on the box model. And inside here, there's some images which kind of show, hey, everything is a box. Even when you have something and you formatted it to be a circle, that circle is within a box. So the way we work with boxes and put boxes on the page is really important. And every box, right, has content, and then around that content, between the content and the border, there's padding. And so then there's the border, which is like between, which is on the outside of the content, right? And then between that stuff and anything else, there's a margin. And then you could set the margin on the top, right, bottom, left. You could set the border on all four sides. You could set padding on all four sides. So those are different things you could set. So now let's work on this problem together. And this will all become more clear as we work on this problem. So here's a page. And I want you to pause this video or download this code, either one, right? Because you should have access to all this code. And up at the top, we just have the normal stuff. And then right down here in the body, that's where the body starts, right? We have this code here. So I want you to look at this code. And we have a new tag that we haven't worked with before, and it's a div. And a div is just a generic container with no semantic meaning, right? And so we have these generic containers. And this is what we've put on this page. So with this on the page, and then with this CSS right here, right? Take a look at the CSS. Try to form a picture in your mind about what is this page going to show. I could also do this. So I'm going to right click up here and split horizontally. And then I could close this one, and I could bring this over, and I could bring that right to here. So there's a div, there's a div, there's a div. And let me actually split vertically. I can't get rid of that. Let me bring it back up. Split vertically, split vertically. There we go. All right, so now this is where you pause your video. What is that going to show on the page? All right. So let's take a look. It's the easiest way, right? So there it is. So we have one container with a paragraph. The div is the container. And around this div, we have a border, and we made it a certain width, and then we also have a margin. And the margin is doing what? It's giving it a margin top and bottom, and it's centering it in the center of the page. And so that div is 500 pixels wide. It's got 20 on the top and bottom, 20 pixels on the top and bottom. And we've centered it in the center, and it has a 2-pixel border, which is black. And then inside there, we have a paragraph, and the paragraph has a border around it. And then that paragraph has this content. So that's that top one. The next one is we have pad me, which will add 50 pixels of padding. So here's our content, here's our border, and here's 50 pixels of padding on all sides. You could play with that, and if I just wanted padding on the top, I could do this, right? And I don't need to put like what type it is, pixels, if it's just 0. And so now it just has padding on the top. Kind of interesting. So this is the content, and here's the padding. And notice what happened. Our box changed in size. So this is the problem. Our box went from this size to this big size right here. So if everything on our web page is a box and we change padding and that box then changes in size, that's going to throw all of our other boxes off because they're all going to have to shift and move over, get pushed off the edge of the page. It's going to throw off our design. If we add a little 1 pixel padding, it could throw off the design. And so how do we change padding, or how do we change border? Because this will happen with border also. How do we change it without having that occur? And so let me show you what that looks like with border. So we'll close these pages. And so I'm going to show you the problem with the border, and then we'll see the solution. And open up that, and open up that, and then collapse this, and then right click and vertically, and there. So here's the same thing, div, paragraph, no padding, div, paragraph, padding. But this one, instead of having padding, has a border. So I'm going to select all the paddings on the page, no padding, padding, padding. I'm just going to change it to border, multiple insertion, selection, whatever. All right, so that's all border. So now when I show this page, same thing, but instead of padding, now we're adding border, right? We're adding border to anything that has class border, okay? So we're going from a border of 2 pixels to 30 pixels. So the border changes the size of the box. So this is the problem, this stuff on the top. This is without border, this is with border. And then down here, right, there's no border. But here we've added border again, but the size of our box didn't change. So I think I should probably put in right here, between these two, H1. Wow. H1, here's the solution. I'll copy that and put that on the other page too. And it's over on the right, but left, but that's all right. Here's a solution. And I could do this up here. Here's the problem. Here's the people. Funny, fingers type something automatically sometimes. All right, here's the problem. Here's the solution. Right, so the box did not change in size. So that's the box sizing is another property we could set, and the value we give it is border box. And when we set box sizing border box to a tag or an element, when we change the border or we change the padding, the size of the box sizing does not change. So that's the solution, right? So there's box sizing border box. And you can remember, because sometimes it's like, is it border box sizing, or is it box sizing border box? Which is the property, which is the value? You can remember that the property is box sizing and the value is border box because the box is on the outside, right? So let's look at our code here. There's the box is right there, and then also right there. The box is on the outside. A box is on the outside, right? So when you set this, box sizing is on the left, and border box is on the right. I hope that showed up correctly in the video, right? Because the box goes on the outside, the box word. That's my mnemonic device for remembering that. So now I'm just going to come back over here to this previous example, and with the problem and the solution, I'm going to modify that to be, here's the problem, here's the solution. Okay, cool. So you can see here it made the box bigger with the padding, and then down here we added padding, but the inner content got squished in. So that's the trade-off. See how the inner content got squished in by the padding? That's the trade-off, but it's now no longer throwing off our layout. All right, so that's the box model. And we could look through these notes here, but everything on a web page, and it's going to be what we've already heard, everything on a web page is a square box. We stack and arrange those boxes on the page. This is a visual analogy, right? It's all boxes. And that's from the MDN website right there. All content is in a box. There is padding around the content. There is border around the content. There is margin around the content. So here's another picture which illustrates that. You know, we saw this one picture on Shay Howe's website, which is right here, right? We saw this picture on Shea Howe's website with content, padding, border, margin. And you could set the properties all around for each one of those on each side. Here's another picture that shows that there's padding, border, and margin around all content. So here's the problem. Here's the question. Here's the solution. And that's just what we went over. And the solution is box sizing, border box. And that's so important. I'm going to highlight it in yellow and I'm going to make it bold. That's the solution, right? And there's the mnemonic device I told you about. Box is on the outside of box sizing, border box. And so now we could change padding and border and the size of the box doesn't change. Thus the location of other boxes doesn't shift. And so the file we were looking at to learn all this is 019 box model. And that box model, you could read more about it in Shea Howe's website, right? His online book. Just hit back. Chapter 4 here, opening the box model. So yeah, that's the box model. Everything on a web page is a box. We have box sizing, border box to be able to make our boxes always stay the same size, even as we change the padding and the border. But as we change padding and border, the content inside is going to be contained in a smaller space. And that's the trade-off. But it's not going to throw off our layout now because the size of our box isn't shifting. That was great. I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it. But the box model is a really important piece to understand and continuing to build this foundation of that you're building for understanding how to build web pages. And I really encourage you to again play with this code here and play with box sizing, border box to see how it allows you to change border and padding without the size of the box changing. All right, so that's another really good step. And I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about next because this is the extent of my outline, and then I have a few ideas. So I'm going to go figure out what I want to present to you next, and then I'm actually due home here in 9 minutes, so perfect timing. And I'll record again at some point in the future, the location to be determined. We might be back here in my dad's office. We might be in my garage. We might be in the pantry at my house, or we might be in my office at my house, or we might be at my office at work. One of those 5 places. All right, so I look forward to seeing you or sharing with you more information in the next video.